Really interesting day here at Levi's Stadium. Brock Purdy, who did not throw at practice on Wednesday because he had shoulder soreness coming out of the loss against Seattle, was back out on the practice field, and he did throw today during warmups, but then he exited practice after about 2 sessions, and we didn't see him again. Now, Kyle Shanahan just came on KMBR and talked about it, which gave us some intel into the situation because Purdy did not hold his usual Thursday press conference today. So Shanahan's full comments on Brock Purdy went this way. He was first asked by Adam Copeland if Purdy's shoulder affected his throws on Sunday, and Shanahan said, "I don't think that it affected the throws on Sunday, just pain-wise and stuff getting warmed up on the sideline. In terms of his throwing, I didn't see anything that looked any different. He didn't complain about that in any way to me." Shanahan went on to say, quote, "Purdy was still limited today. He didn't do as much yesterday, did a little bit more today, but by no means was he doing his normal workload. Went out there and did a little, went back in about halfway through and rested his arm up, continued to get his rehab. Hopefully it will feel great on Sunday," end quote from Kyle Shanahan. So there we have it. That's all the information that we have at this point. Purdy didn't throw at all on practice on Wednesday, but he went through footwork drills and he stood around throughout all 4 sessions that were open to the media. Then on Thursday, he did throw a little bit, but was not around for all 4 sessions. He left into the weight room after the second one. Shanahan did not directly say if that was pre-planned or not. Purdy did seem to have his shoulder looked at by the head trainer, Dustin Little, was rubbing a little bit after the second period before he went into the weight room. But it's really, really hard to read anything else into what we saw today. It's just limited information. I personally have never seen a quarterback leave the practice field early the way that Brock Purdy did today. But we do know that he had been dealing with that shoulder soreness, and I had also never seen a quarterback only go through practice with the footwork drills outside of Trey Lance when he broke his finger. Lance broke his finger, I believe, in 2021. So that was late in the preseason, early season. Lance would go through the footwork drills, but then he wouldn't throw because he obviously had a little splint or cast on his finger. So this is the first time since then that we've seen a QB just go through footwork drills and not actually throw. But then today, Brock Purdy actually threw. It was just a few light warm-up tosses, but obviously I stepped off the practice field and tweeted it at the time. Shortly thereafter, Brock Purdy exited the practice field. Needless to say, this is a very dramatic and important story to track ahead of the 49ers game against the Green Bay Packers. If Purdy doesn't play, Brandon Allen will start at quarterback for the 49ers. He's the QB2. He's been running the first-team offense here in these 49ers practices with Purdy not throwing during these practices. Purdy has technically been a limited participant. That's how they've listed him on the injury report. And it would have to be Brandon Allen with the 49ers back up against the wall while facing the Green Bay Packers. It was snowing today at Lambeau Field. I don't think it's expected to snow on Sunday, but there probably is a little bit of that chance. I saw 0% precipitation, temperatures between 33 and 45 degrees on Sunday in Lambeau for the 49ers against the Green Bay Packers. Last time San Francisco went to Green Bay, they also had a quarterback with an injured shoulder. That was Jimmy Garoppolo, who was able to gut through it, and it was ugly because his arm wasn't very functional. I mean, he had the hurt shoulder and the torn shoulder capsules that it suffered the week before when Randy Gregory sacked him in the wild card round against the Cowboys. And he also was dealing with the torn thumb ligament. So that was one of the all-time gutsy 49ers performances from Jimmy G in the frigid cold against the Packers. This time, we don't know exactly what's wrong with Brock Purdy's shoulder. It has been reported by the 49ers to be shoulder soreness, and it's obviously cost him full practice time on Wednesday and Thursday, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Another key note is that he did not address the media in his typical Thursday press conference today. So I think that adds to the layers of intrigue that we're already dealing with. The 49ers, they face a massive game, needless to say, on Sunday. If they win this game, their playoff probability shoots over 50%. If they lose this game, their playoff probability dips to about 15%. So that's a huge, huge swing. For the Packers, there's also a big swing at play, although they seem to be in a little bit better position than the 49ers. If you look at this next 2-game road trip, this one against the Packers is probably more important because it affects the NFC record. And the NFC record is part of the tiebreaker formula. And the 49ers might have to deal with the tiebreaker formula since they're trying to climb out of 5-5 into better playoff positioning. But they've got the Packers now, the Bills the week after that, cold weather games, not good for injury situations, and they're dealing with a quarterback who has a sore shoulder. This may or may not be related to Brock Purdy's shoulder, but I think it is worth noting, at least from a stylistic perspective, over the first 8 weeks of the season, so before the 49ers entered their bye, Brock Purdy had attempted 29 deep passes. Those are passes that travel 20 or more yards through the air beyond the line of scrimmage. He ranked number 6 in the entire NFL with those 29 deep attempts over the first 8 weeks. Since the bye week, the 49ers have played 2 games against Tampa Bay and then against the Seattle Seahawks. Brock Purdy has not attempted a single deep pass. He's not attempted a single pass over 20 yards in the air beyond the line of scrimmage. So from 29 deep attempts before the bye week to 0 deep attempts over the past 2 games. I think if you look at the way that Seattle was playing, they're playing a lot of 2 high safety, dropping those safeties back, which is why it was disappointing the 49ers didn't run the ball better. You should be able to run better against that front. But you can explain away the lack of deep passes against Seattle by the defense. But it still is interesting that Purdy was one of the most prolific deep throwers in the game before the bye week, hasn't attempted a single one since then. So I think that is absolutely something that we should continue tracking, even if Brock Purdy does play in this game. Because if he does play, and there have been reports of a sore shoulder, well, then we should pay attention to Purdy's velocity. We should pay attention to the times that he's pushing it downfield, and we could see if that all does tie together. But right now we're dealing with a lot of fog in this situation, right? I'm just relaying the facts to you. Those are the facts as they stand. Purdy left practice early today. Shanahan said that he went in to do rehab. Shanahan did not explicitly say that this was the plan for Brock Purdy today. He didn't explicitly say that it wasn't the plan for Brock Purdy today. We should have a chance to talk to at least one quarterback tomorrow. Purdy's normal availability is on Thursdays. They did not make him available today, but they did not make Brandon Allen available, and they did not make Josh Dobbs available either. Brandon Allen is the QB2 for the 49ers, so he would start against Green Bay if Purdy is unavailable to go. Other news from the locker room. I ran into Nick Bosa really quickly. He said he's feeling better. He didn't do an interview or anything, but Bosa seemed to be in a good mood in the locker room. I would say my gut feeling just being around the team is that Bosa is trending toward playing, although it's probably still too early to tell for sure as he comes back from the hip pointer. Meanwhile, I would think that Trent Williams is going to be a longer shot this week. That's just my gut feeling based on being around the building. Trent played through the ankle issue last week, and it's tough to play through an ankle issue in an NFL game. And he gave it his all. It's going to be cold in Green Bay. Now, I think it's a natural surface in Green Bay, so that might help matters for the 49ers, but it's going to be tough for both Bosa and Trent Williams to play. Kyle Shanahan on KMBR said that both of their statuses are in jeopardy for both Bosa and Trent Williams, but he also said that both of those decisions are going to go all the way up until game day, as they should go all the way up until game day, because this is a very serious 49er situation. They're 5-5. Again, I told you the delta of playoff probability. This is one where it's not a must-win. You can never say it's a must-win until it actually is a must-win because you got to be technically right. But it's a better win kind of game. It's one of those where if you don't win, you're in big, big trouble if you're the 49ers. You're not fully eliminated, but you're in big trouble. If they do win, I mentioned the playoff probability, over 50% for San Francisco. You're actually in solid position. Probably even if you lose to Buffalo the next week, because it's going to be tough to win in Buffalo. They're one of the best teams in football. 49ers have a good efficiency profile too, but geez, Buffalo, Sunday Night Football, I believe the Bills are going to be coming off a bye week. That's another really tough draw for the 49ers. That puts a ton of pressure on this game against the Green Bay Packers. And it just so happens that some of the parallels are there to the past. Last time they were there, divisional playoffs, it was extremely cold. That was closer to 0 degrees, might have been under 0 degrees at Green Bay. That was the snow globe game. It's when Robbie Gould booted through the winning field goal. That's when Jimmy Garoppolo played through 2 injuries, including a shoulder injury. It's really hard to compare Brock Purdy's injury until we know exactly what's going on. So hopefully we get a chance to talk to him tomorrow and get a little bit of a insight into what's happening there. Just looking at through some of the comments as they're coming through, somebody says Bosa is a hip, now it's oblique. It's all the same, guys. Hip, oblique, they're in the same spot. It is not a core muscle injury. Bosa confirmed that yesterday. He had to have surgery due to a core muscle injury at Ohio State that cost him most of his last season there. So he said that's good news. It's not core muscle. It's more of the hip/oblique, but I wouldn't really obsess over the nomenclature of the injury. The main point is that Bosa had hurt one side, I believe it was his right side before. He was laboring through it. He got 2 sacks, but on the second sack against the Seahawks, he overcompensated for the injury on the right side and he hurt the left side. So he had prescribed rest last week. The rest had actually gotten him into good position to play and to deliver those 2 sacks. And it's not surprising that he's going for rest again this week. Has not practiced on Wednesday and Thursday. Last week, Bosa was out there Friday. We'll see if that is again the case for the 49ers this time around. So again, those of you just joining, Shanahan's comments on Purdy. This is, quote, Shanahan, he was still limited today. He didn't do as much yesterday, did a little bit more today, but by no means was he doing his normal workout. Went out there and did a little, went back in about halfway through and rested his arm up, continued to get his rehab. Hopefully it will get better on Sunday. Hopefully it will feel great on Sunday. That's a misspeak on my part. The quote was, hopefully it will feel great on Sunday. That's coming from Kyle Shanahan. Obviously, a lot of treatment they could give Brock Purdy between now and Sunday. It honestly does feel like a situation that's up in the air for the 49ers. Purdy, Shanahan said that he wasn't overly concerned yesterday. He didn't say that he was overly concerned today. I do have to note that Purdy exiting practice, though, is something that I hadn't seen before. I've seen quarterbacks hurt before. I've seen quarterbacks dealing with shoulder issues before. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo is a really good example. He threw at practice, though, every time. The only time I haven't seen a quarterback throw, even though he's been part of practice, was Trey Lance after he broke his finger in that 2021 season. So that was the whole footwork only for Trey Lance. And we saw the footwork only for Brock Purdy yesterday. Today, we did see him throw a little bit more, which to me was notable for the 49ers. But Mike just sent me the Packers injury report. He says they have some interesting injuries as well. Jair Alexander did not participate. I think Jair told the media that he's got a torn PCL in his knee. That is the star cornerback for Green Bay. He did not participate on Wednesday and Thursday. Kenny Clark, the good defensive tackle, limited participant with a toe injury. Kenny Clark has given the 49ers some tough times in the past. Remember the screen pass he blew up, 2021, week 3, Sunday Night Football right here at Levi's Stadium? It was an ugly play where Jimmy Garoppolo fumbled backwards, but it was like Kenny Clark blowing up a screen pass. It was a really tough situation that he put the 49ers in. So that definitely is something to watch. The linebacker, Edgerrin Cooper, did not participate today with a hamstring injury. Josh Jacobs has been limited, the great running back for the Packers, formerly the Raiders. He's got quad and calf injuries. Elton Jenkins, one of their offensive linemen, he's only been resting this week, so he was back and good to go. Josh Myers, interior offensive lineman, limited with a wrist injury. Rasheed Walker, the tackle, full participant today. He's been dealing with a knee. Evan Williams, the safety, and Colby Wooden, the defensive lineman, limited participants for the Green Bay Packers. So they're dealing with some stuff too, but I think that the 49ers are dealing with more when you're talking about Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa all being on the injury report. On top of that, they're not going to have Tatum Bethune, the rookie linebacker, has been doing some special teams work for this team. I mentioned Bosa. Jacob Cowing is in the concussion protocol, and he did not participate today after being a limited participant yesterday, so it's not trending in the right direction right now for Jacob Cowing. The 49ers have to activate John Feliciano from IR by next Monday, so the day after this game against Green Bay. Maybe they do that before this game, or maybe they wait until this game is over to see if any offensive linemen get hurt to decide who he'll replace. But the deadline is coming up after the 3-week practice window for John Feliciano, who has been practicing for the 49ers. Still no participation for Kevin Givens. Givens, that groin injury has been keeping him out for a while, longer than expected. I've only seen him twice over the past couple of weeks, and that is on Fridays doing some sprints off on the side. George Kittle, limited participant this week. He's already said that, quote, for sure he's going to play, so wouldn't worry about George Kittle. McCaffrey was back out at practice today, spoke to the media, mentioned that he's been on teams where quarterbacks have played even if they haven't practiced that week in team drills. So that might be an allusion to what the 49ers are planning with Brock Purdy this week. Limited participation for Purdy both days today. Then Charvarius Ward has been back at practice. I might post a video of that a little bit later. Finally, Trent Williams, no participation. No participation last week for Trent Williams, and he did play. But I will say, God, it's going to be tough after playing on it last week. You have to figure that did something. You know, you have to use some of that ankle strength, and you are playing on a hurt ankle. You have to figure that factors into whether or not Trent Williams will be able to play this week. And it really is too bad for the 49ers that they were not able to grab that win last week. This show is brought to you by Public Rec. Public Rec, they've got some great pants, and they sent me a nice shirt too to try on, and I do have to recommend them. Are you tired of squeezing into stiff dress pants at that holiday party? This season, unwrap the gift of comfort with the Game Changer pants from Public Rec. The office pants that look like Monday but feel like Sunday. Imagine clocking in while feeling as cozy as if you were still in bed, sipping hot cocoa. With a soft hand feel and smooth drape, these pants are fan favorites for a reason. Whether you're closing deals in the boardroom, navigating holiday travel, or mingling at company parties, the Game Changers will keep you looking sharp and feeling great. Public Rec is the ultimate men's clothing brand for blending comfort and style seamlessly. And trust me, you won't be disappointed. Stop suffering in regular pants and give the gift of comfort this holiday season. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off when you use the code Lombardi at checkout. It's 20% off with the code Lombardi at publicrec.com. And after the purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, so be sure to support our show and tell them we sent you. Give yourself or someone you love the gift of comfort this holiday. One of these shows I'll do wearing that Public Rec stuff. It really is. I'm not just saying this. They sent me the clothes, and I was like, damn, these are nice. And the pants do look nice, yet they do feel like sweatpants. It's kind of a miracle. If you guys have any questions, toss them in. We'll talk here for a few minutes from Levi Stadium. Now we got Steelers-Browns tonight. The Steelers bar is right near my apartment in San Francisco, so I may swing in there, check out Russell Wilson. Maybe we can talk about what would have happened if Brandon Ayuk had actually been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why don't we revisit that here in November? It's already November 21st. Really hard to believe. That Ayuk drama was a good 3 months ago. I was getting wrapped up at the end of August. Time absolutely flies. If you think the Steelers are going to win tonight, you can type in Steelers. If you think the Browns are going to pull the upset, the 2-8 Browns, which I don't think is going to happen, you can type Browns. But what would have happened, you could put this in the comment section too, what would have happened if Brandon Ayuk had played for the Pittsburgh Steelers? That might be the video title tonight. I like to talk about that Thursday night game. Maybe Mike can make another one of those Ayuk wearing a Steelers uniform thumbnails. Clinton Darnell says Juwan Jennings is a favorite player. Well, he's done a hell of a job filling in at that X receiver spot. Where would the 49ers be without Jennings' performances? But gosh, to waste what Juwan Jennings did against the Rams was tough for the 49ers. I mean, that was a historic performance. He was there 200 receiving yards or close to it, 3 touchdowns. If they win that game, they're 6-4. I think that's you look at the Rams game and you look at the Cardinals game, both of those saw San Francisco blow late leads. So did the Seahawks game. But the Rams game was the one where they had the massive personnel advantage and could not capitalize. They also had the Jennings all-pro game. They could not capitalize. But boy, has he done a good job this season. Saying 4th and JJ from Eric Gomes. Mike says this is a season of torture. You know, seasons after Super Bowls never seem to be easy, even if you won the Super Bowl. Never seems to be easy. Unless you're the 89 49ers who had their season of torture in 88, and they ended up winning. It was a season of torture where they won the Super Bowl. They were 6-5. So the 49ers find a way to scrap and claw to win in Green Bay, and I mean, I don't know if Brock Purdy's playing at this point, so that's something that we're going to have to wait and see. But if they can find a way to win this week, they will have the same record that the 1988 Super Bowl champion 49ers had through 11 games. And that was the ultimate season of torture. It led Bill Walsh to retire. After he broke down in the locker room, I think it was the Miami, it was Joe Robbie Stadium, the locker room in Miami, Bill Walsh broke down, and that was it for him as an NFL coach. He would come back and coach Stanford for a couple years, returned to where his head coaching career began. But the stress of that 88 season of torture did a number on Bill Walsh. But then the 49ers turned around in 89 and dominated everybody and won the Super Bowl 55-10. So you never know when that season of torture is going to come. The 49ers, the dynastic team, they were able to deliver the year after they went to the Super Bowl. Now, I think it's important to note, those people saying the 49ers are worn out this year, they went essentially the distance in 2021 and in 2022 as well. They played 20 games in both of those seasons, just like they did last year. Last year they had the bye, so they went further, but played the same amount of games. But they had to play the wild card round in both 2021 and 2022. So they played a 20-game marathon in both of those two seasons, and they still bounced back to make it to the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl in the following seasons, respectively. So this is not a team that's been derailed by marathon seasons necessarily in the past. Now, I do grant the argument that the accumulation of 60 games in 3 years could have something to do with the 49ers wearing down in the fourth quarter. I mentioned their defense is top 5 in the first quarter, number 28 in the fourth quarter. Like they have shown signs of fatigue and thinness and falling off a cliff when it comes to performance later in games that do definitely jive with the theory that this is a team that has a lot of mileage on it. But I would also point out that they have been able to overcome marathon seasons in the past 2 years. I do think that there might be some validity to the 60 games in 3 years. And that's why I talked so much this offseason about that. And I said this draft class is going to have to perform to give the 49ers that youth infusion, that boost, that energy down the stretch. And so far, so good from the 2024 draft class. And that's allowed the 49ers to be a top 5, top 6 efficiency team, but they have not delivered the plays that would make them an 8-2 team. And because of that, they might be 3 or 4 plays away from 8-2, but they are 5-5. And that's why their backs are up against the wall ahead of this game against the Green Bay Packers. Big time football coming up for the 49ers in Green Bay. This is a team that I can't think of a time. Somebody sent this to me. This is one of the coaches I was talking to. And he mentioned that the 49ers under Shanahan, whenever they've had a back up against the wall situation, they've always shown up to play. Obviously, they haven't necessarily won every single time, but they've won more often than not with their backs up against the wall, but they've always shown up to play. So the odds might be stacked against them, especially if Brock Purdy is either limited or out of this game, but they're going to give Green Bay their best shot. That's what history tells us. Diomar Lenore talked about the 49ers having their backs up against the wall, and he said that they're ready to fight in this situation. So we'll see how it goes from them. You know, the coach I was talking to was theorizing about some different 49ers personnel alignments today. We're both in agreement, and I made the video about this earlier, that Jalen Moore should not be running pass patterns for this team. But the Seattle Seahawks were ready for Brock Purdy whenever he was rolling out off the play action. There was a play where Devin Witherspoon was all over Purdy. It looked like he got close to hitting his arm, definitely knocked away the ball on one of the design boot rollouts off the play action. So this is what the coach would tell me. He says it's going to be interesting to see what adjustments are going to be made to the play action game. With Seattle having someone ready to meet Purdy, it's a certainty that Green Bay will try to copy that. The Niners love to fake a run one direction and pass away from it. They're going to have to throw to one side. They throw to the same side that they faked to this time. Probably work in some runs out of the shotgun and play action from that too. He also mentioned that something that we haven't seen for a while from Kyle Juszczyk is faking a block from the fullback position and slipping by the defender on a vertical route. Might be a good time for Kyle Shanahan to try that. And George Kittle's fake cross where he turns back the opposite direction might be good, because we did see Seattle starting to really overcommit to a lot of the 49ers' tendencies in this past game. So This is one where Kyle Shanahan, I mean, even if Brock Purdy can play, I don't think he's going to be 100%. I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and I'll have another report for you tomorrow. I might have a report for you tonight. So go ahead and subscribe and be ready for it. But the big picture amidst all this uncertainty with Purdy, with Bosa, with Trent Williams is Kyle Shanahan is going to have to bring his fastball on Sunday. Because if you're not going to be 100%, and I think that's almost certain for the 49ers, the coach better have a game plan and a scheme that puts his puts his players into the very best possible positions to win. So that's my theory. That's my thesis. 49ers, Packers coming up. We'll talk to everybody after Thursday Night Football.